Greetings to everyone out there in YouTube land. I'm Aidan Hutchinson, and I just want to give a shout out to Coach Dan. Thank you for all the support you show the team and the players. Everyone hit the like, subscription button, and yell woo in the comments. Thank you, and go Lions.
What's going on, guys? It is Aidan Hutchinson.
What's up, man? It's your boy Amon-Ra St. Brown.
What's up to Lion Talk Live? So we love you too, buddy.
What's up, everybody? It's Calvin Johnson Jr. here, a.k.a. Megatron, a.k.a. First Ballot.
Greetings and salutations to everyone out there in YouTube land. This is Dan Skipper, offensive weapon for the Detroit Lions. Make sure you all help support Lions Talk Live, Coach Dan, by clicking on that like and subscribe button. Everybody, woo!
Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I am your host, once again, Dan Thornton, and I want to thank you all for joining us here today. Hey, it's Lions Talk Live. It's the morning show edition, and you know what? Hey, we're going to get the bad stink out of our mouth of the first game of the regular season. Yes, it didn't go great for the Detroit Lions, but I think we got a whole lot of good stuff to talk about leading into week 2 and the rest of the season. It wasn't the start we all wanted, but it is the start we may have needed. Let that sink in. Could it be the Detroit Lions maybe got a little complacent? Could it be that maybe the Green Bay Packers, you know what, they were just tired of getting their butt kicked by the Lions, even when the Lions didn't have a defense in either game last year? All things can be true. All things can be correct. But you know what? You're not going to get in today's show any kind of negativity about the Detroit Lions. We're going to analyze all the good stuff going forward, and I think there's a whole lot of good leading into week 2 and the rest of this upcoming season. Before we get into that, before we get into the 5 headlines now and everything else in between, if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, why the heck not, man? Come on now, hit that subscribe button. We are just 15 subs away from hitting 14,500. So if you could do me a solid and it'd get you a crisp high five, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Again, we're trying to make that push for 14,500, and then the march is on for 14,600. Also, if you got a half second of time, it won't cost you anything whatsoever. Go ahead and reach down, left side, whatever it is on your screen. Hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, hit all the buttons. We try to get every episode of the show between 200, 300, 400 or more. Thumbs up or likes. Last but most certainly, never least, if you're looking to buy or sell property and in the great state of Michigan, go ahead and give me a call or shoot me a text. You see the number on the screen, 269-998-2384. We can have a quick conversation, talk about what I can do to use over 30 years in the industry, save you time, save you hassle, save you money, all things in between for commercial property, vacant land, new house, old house, whatever. I'll make sure nobody overcharges you, overworks you, etc. We'll have a conversation, see what I can do for you. Give me a call, shoot me a text. You see the number on the screen. All right, with all that done, set out of the way, let's get this show kicking off and rock and rolling going with 5 headlines now. All right, 5 glorious headlines coming at us. 1, 2, 3. Peter Schrager just said what Lions fans are scared to admit about Jared Goff. Story by Candace Prayers, fan side. This is about 2 or 3 days ago. Peter Schrager works for NFL Network, apparently works for ESPN to some degree now. Did have some comments about Jared Goff. Would he still be able to be the same type of quarterback we've seen the last few years with Ben Johnson gone? Oh, he does dive in, offers some thoughts, maybe has some takes that Sean McVay, Ben Johnson made Jared Goff one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Here's what I would say to all that. Peter Schrager has this direct quote. I think the brain drain is real. I think Ben Johnson is already 1-0, and he hasn't even coached an NFL game. I think you see Ben Johnson brought a lot to that offense. And now you get this Chicago game tonight, and it's like, all right, we're going to see what the Bears do, end quote. I'm not going to go into all this. Obviously, this is the day of the Monday Night Football game. Is Ben Johnson's loss going to be felt? Absolutely. Anytime you switch coaches, there's going to be changes, learning opportunities for the players, for all the people involved, especially when you're talking about a sport like football, when there's so many integral parts moving around. It's not just the offensive coordinator. It is the lack of Antoine Randall working with the wide receivers and a gluttony of other people that put in their work, sweat, and blood to make a team work. We also know part of the change is that offensive line, and we can go on for hours about all these factors. Here's my thoughts, positive thoughts on what was being said here with this story. Peter Schrager is right, but he's also wrong. Look at the Chicago Bears. The first drive was pretty dang well. Why? That is your first scripted drive of the game. Most OCs script the first 8 to 15 plays of the game. After that, you're going off the cuff. What do you see out there? What do you see? What kind of adjustments you're going to make? It's probably why Caleb Williams didn't look as good after that. Jared Goff and the Lions, I think they had a whole lot going on. I know I've talked about it in other shows this week or right after the game. It's why I would play people in the preseason to get them reps, try to build up that timing, get things right, especially when you're talking about a new OC and DC. Here's my thoughts on Jared Goff real quick. I think he's going to be fine over time. I think the offensive line is going to be fine. I get it's the job of national media to put content out, especially if you're in a 24-hour content business like ESPN or NFL Network. If you don't have something to put on screen or the TV, you got no show, you got no network. So you're always scrambling for takes. I'm not going to say he's wrong to think these things, but I also think it's one of the most overblown things. Oh, Jared Goff's going to fall on his face. Dude completed what it was like 31 out of 39 passes. The accuracy wasn't a problem. Yeah, I thought it was more he didn't really have time to go through progressions. We could talk a little bit more about some of the route structure if we see it again this week. But in my opinion, when you can't run the ball, it's harder to throw the ball, especially when you're talking second and long, third and long, because you know what? Defenses are usually pretty good, and I do think the Packers have a pretty good one. All right, next to the 5 headlines now. Lions' Aidan Hutchinson gets stern warning after Packers loss. The heavy story by Ann Erickson. Another one that I think is a little overblown. Everybody coming after Aidan Hutchinson. Well, he didn't get any stats. He didn't get any sacks. Didn't do anything on the stat sheet. This, that, the other thing. I don't know, guys. Everybody can view that game and rewatch it and come to your own conclusions. With this story, Hutchinson, it's questionable whether or not he's an all-pro player, whether or not he should get paid, whatever the going rate's going to be when he does sign a new contract. I'm going to leave you guys to your opinions. My opinion watching the tape and rewatching the tape is simply this. Is Aidan Hutchinson the type of defensive end that can take on double and triple team blocks and win 90% of the time? No. There's only a few of those people I've ever seen in the league. Lawrence Taylor, Derek Thomas, Bruce Smith, Robert Porcher back in the day. I mean, they're pretty rare. So is Hutch a very good defensive end? Yes, absolutely. If you don't re-sign him, somebody else will sign him real quick. But with that also being said, I'd say the rest of the defensive line, is they get better at winning their one-on-ones, that's going to make it harder to double and triple team Aidan Hutchinson. In my opinion, watching the game tape of the Green Bay game, they say early, they say often, they say repeatedly, somebody else has got to beat us. It's not going to be Aidan Hutchinson. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think it decreases his value. I know I was at the gym yesterday working out, and what's his name, 97.1, Valetti says, well, if you're going to pay him all this cash, he's got to beat the double teams and everything. Okay, you want to believe that, that's fine. But in my opinion, if you're the defensive end that's constantly getting doubled or tripled or chipped or whatever you want to say, you're in some way occupying 2 or 3 people to come after you. Other people got to win, and that's where I think the real fault is. Yes, we can talk for eons about should the Lions have done this and that and the other thing. It doesn't matter at this point. This is who it is. I like what I saw out of him. I think it's only going to get better week 1 to 2 to 3. Because remember, he hasn't really played, contact football other than what we see a little bit in practices in nearly a year. I think with every week, he's going to get his conditioning back like a lot of the team. It's also why I'd play people in the preseason. And once that happens, he's going to perform better. I think that performance, though, if he can have a game here this week, that would be best for all involved, himself, the team, the defense. But I'm expecting the defense, which didn't play bad after the first quarter overall, I think it is going to play better this week. All right, next to the 5 headlines now. I'm about Ross St. Brown. As soon as Ben Johnson arrives, we're booing him. Detroit Lions at SI by John Macarone. I couldn't agree more. Ben Johnson, you guys get it. Everybody watching this is going to unleash the fury on your TV screens, unless you're at Ford Field. People at Ford Field, they're going to be coming after him. Part of what made the game difficult, in my opinion, Sunday, is the Lions a lot of time came down to situational areas. Think back to when the Lions got the ball down, backed up into their own goal line. It made it hard for the offensive line to communicate. That's why you had so many mistakes at that particular moments. It's also affected a lot of the game. I do anticipate the Bears have a lot of new people. Yes, they do or did play a lot of their guys in the preseason. Maybe it helps us a ton. But talking to or hearing from a lot of the Lions offensive linemen when they were talking about it post-game, and then yesterday, they all said, hey, the miscommunications came down to too much reliance on verbal communication versus non-verbal communication. Most offensive lines go into harsh environments, road games, knowing they have to do different stuff mechanic-wise to help communicate what needs to happen before the snap. That didn't happen for the Detroit Lions. I anticipate the Chicago Bears are going to run a lot of the same things. They may be better prepared for it than we were in Green Bay. I have no idea. But I do think the Lions need to do one simple, very coachable moment here. If the Bears are backed up, if they're struggling, you need to shift your second portion of your defense, your defensive line, the secondary. So once Caleb Williams gets that line, if his offensive line can't communicate the changes after the shifts, that's going to make it harder for them. Probably look a lot like the Detroit Lions offense did. And you know what? You get people guessing. That's where I think Caleb Williams in the Monday Night Football game, you got after that first 10, 15 scripted plays. If you watch the Minnesota Vikings, I thought they did a real good job, especially later in the game as the game progressed to the second half, of shifting things around, making the Chicago Bears make those adjustments, and they really struggled with it. If I was in charge of the Detroit Lions, I would be doing that from the get-go, and every snap, whether it's a running play, passing play, I would make it tough on them. Amon-Ra St. Brown thinks that everybody's going to be booing Ben Johnson. I'm going to guess everybody in the crowd is going to be going after him. We just need to pile on him, keep the score high, keep the fans involved, and make the life for the Chicago Bears, the quarterback, the head coach, everybody in between, as difficult as possible. All right, Lions safety among highest graded PFF graded players against the Packs. Detroit Lions on SI story by Christian Bohr. All right, I got some stuff for you guys today. I just got to remember how to bring it on the screen. No, hold on a second. All right, nope, not that button. And I'm trying to add more graphics for you guys for the show. So let's go with what did I call this stuff? All right, hold on. I guess I just got to manually look for it. Not prank squad. Well, all right, great. So here we go. All right, let's bring this on the screen. Let's get this off the screen. Highest PFF graded offensive players. As you can see, it wasn't a great day for the Detroit Lions on offense by any stretch of the imagination. These scores probably should not be a surprise to anybody. Penei Sewell, hey, you would like to see someone of his caliber in the 80s, if not the low 90s. The fact that he's barely a 70 tells you Penei Sewell had one of his worst games of his NFL career. Again, as a coach, I can say this. Maybe if you played him in the preseason, this would have been better. But either way, you got to move on from it. Penei Sewell, Sam I. M. Laporta were basically your only guys that did a somewhat decent score. Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs also not strong performances. Lowest PFF grades, Christian Mahogany, not a surprise here, 54.4. Jameson Williams, 53.7. Brock the Hitman Wright, 50.5. Jared Goff, 45.5. And Graham Glasgow, 43.6. None of those should make anybody feel very good about anything the Lions offense did. All right, let's go on to the second part, though, and as you probably guessed, that would be the defense. Highest graded defensive players. You know, Brian Branch, like I said, led the way. 90 or above is considered an elite grade. So is it an elite grade for Brian Branch? No, but I mentioned this, I think in the post-game show, or maybe it was Monday's show for us, whatever it was. I did talk about it, rewatching the game, watching it live. I thought was, basically I got confirmation the more I watched the game. Brian Branch is all over the field. He may have been the best player for either team on the field, although I'm not going to take anything away from Micah Parsons or some of the other Pack players. It's just my opinion. He was an elite player out there and was just dominating the game. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Aidan Hutchinson, we talked about. He had some good stuff, in my opinion. Had some bad stuff. It was his first game back. 72. Not great by any stretch of imagination. Alex Anzalone, 70.9. Amik Robinson, I thought he played real well. Rarely heard his name. In fact, you might not even known he played because, you know what, they didn't talk about him. But he had a 70.1. Derek Barnes, a lot of people question the Lions re-signing him. He, I thought, had a pretty decent outing out there at a 69.1. Would really like to see his score better, along with a lot of other people. Lowest Pro Football Focus grade defensive players, Petty O'Connor, 57.1. I was a little surprised by that because I actually thought he was fairly effective. He did generate some pressure. They played him as a big end at times, and I thought he did okay. Marcus Davenport, 55.1. We'll be talking about that one, I'm sure. DJ Reed, 50.8. Tyleik Williams, 48.7. DJ Reed, I think I said him earlier, but anyways, 38. So you can see across the board, the Lions didn't seem prepared. They didn't look great. And you know what? These grades kind of confirm all of the above. All right, Lions announced 3 practice squad moves, NFLTradeRumors.com or co. By Tony Camaro. Let's bring this up. Hey, we're trying to throw more graphics at you guys live on the show. Practice. All right, bing, and there we go. All right, so as you can see, updated list from the Lions practice squad. You guys go through all this. You can see it while I'm talking about it. But Lions did make some roster adjustments, I guess you could word it. And linebacker Anthony Pittman was released from the practice squad. He was up for the game, basically for special team purposes. And I don't think it's any kind of damning statement against him. But as you guys are also probably aware, Lions are having to make some offensive line moves because Jones was put on the injury reserve, whatever I'm trying to say, for the season. So he's gone. Does mean that probably Dan Skipper is going to get moved up. That would be my anticipation, to occupy one of the backup tackle spots. Not going to be, I think, a stressful move for the team. He knows everything pretty well. He's going to be emergency left tackle, right tackle, tight end blocking, 6-man, etc. But Devin Cochran was added to the Lions practice squad. He's 6'7". He's not bad. He is a bit of a project, but I think long term, if they can develop him, you might have a weapon there. And then linebacker Monty Rice also came up, a little bit of a practice squad guy who can play special teams, a little bit of coverage. Pittman, who is 28, signed with the Lions as an undrafted free agent out of Wayne State in 2019. Most of you guys know he's been in and out of this program probably as much as Tom Kennedy over the years. So the Lions, for whatever reason, they made the moves. I'm going to guess with Cochran, it is going to be because Jamarco Jones is on the IR for the rest of the season. And this would probably be an indication Dan Skipper is going to be elevated, at least that's my guess, from the practice squad at some point to the 53-man roster to try to help shore some stuff up there. All right, Duke Crew, with all that out of the way, let's get this off the screen. There you go. Let's get on over to the main topic of the day. I know everybody's been doom and gloom for 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever, but I'm over it. You got to go on to the next game, and the next game is the Chicago Bears. So without further ado, let's dive into it. All right, Duke, here's the good stuff here. The Lions do have some good news. Like I said, you go back and watch the tapes. I think there are some good things there. I'm going to give some credit, though. Sometimes you look bad because the other team looks good. And I know that sounds kind of lame, but it's true. I think if the Lions played just about any other team, maybe 70 to 80% of the rest of the NFL, they probably look a whole lot better. Maybe they win the game. I've said before, I think the game would have came down to basically 8 to 12 plays. I rewatched the game a few times. I think a lot of stuff's there. I also think a lot of that stuff, Dan Campbell talked about it, gives coaches speak, says, we're going to be able to clean these things up. We're that close. I think he's right. You watch some of the offensive line, because to me, I'm always going to start on football with the offense and defense lines. If you can't control the lines, you don't have a chance. And I don't care if it's Pop Warner football, Division III football, high school football, whatever, you get the idea. If you control the lines, you do a pretty good job. My opinion, even though those scores were pretty abysmal for both the offense and defense, I think a lot of that stuff is stuff you can clean up. Offensive line should look vastly better this week because you're at home. You're not dealing with the communication issues that clearly affected them all over the field. Running game, passing game. If it shows up again this week when you're at home, that's a massive concern. And I would probably really, really have to rethink my schedule prediction for the Lions as far as the record-wise. But some of the good stuff is both tackles for the Detroit Lions played about as not great as they could. Taylor Decker probably played best of anybody on that offensive line. And that's hard for me to say since Penei Sewell's on the other side. But Penei Sewell had his worst game, I think, of his entire career. That's probably not going to happen again. Anybody watching this show understands he's a very prideful individual, loves to own his side of the field, and I think he's going to do that. So let's assume the offensive line is going to be even marginally better. I think the Lions can probably expect a little bit better performance out of the running backs then, which leads into the play action pass, which also leads into some of the offense just performing overall better. Let's make no bones about it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, since the moment Benedict Johnson left for Chicago, he's not the only Lions player that has talked about how big this game is, how much they want to put it on him. It wasn't because you were good. It's because we're good. Isaac Tesla, a lot of you guys messaged me, and I was surprised the national media, too, also mentioned why even put him in for 3 snaps towards the end of the game, game's over. I would say this, if you think that, you've never coached before, and here's a thought for you. Every time I can get a younger player, whether they're just a new to the team player, a rookie player on the field, you know what they get? They get experience. They get reps. They get rid of some of the nerves. Is he going to be, if he gets out there Sunday, is he going to be as nervous as he would have been if he didn't play last Sunday against Green Bay Packers? My opinion, slightly less. And I do think they're going to use him more. In my opinion, the plan was to use him against the Green Bay Packers, but as you guys all know, he was sick for 3 or 4 days, had to do remote meetings for a couple of them, got very limited reps. So how much of the playbook was he really ready for the Packers? Probably not much. That's why he only got 3 snaps in there. I would ask everybody watching, do you think he can run block better than just about any other wide receiver outside of maybe St. Brown? And I'll give J-Mo some credit. I'll say, okay, outside of those two. Because I think both of those guys run block pretty well. I think Tesla is maybe right up there with them, maybe even a little bit better in that department. He's also a big bad boy. We get it. He's 6'4". He can jump on the gym. He is going to be remembered probably for the next couple of years on highlight reels everywhere, as long as his career keeps going forward with Detroit. You know, that catch against Green Bay Packers, that's the stuff of mythology. So let's say the run game gets better just because the offensive line gets better. Tesla is out there, run blocks a little bit better. How much better does the offense now look, and how much more dangerous is your quarterback? Who's one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL at play action pass? If you said Jared Goff, you're probably right, and you're probably not having to look at a cheat sheet or Google it to find that out. I'm anticipating, along with the fact that the Chicago Bears appear to have a few different defenders out. They were out against Minnesota. Sounds like they're going to be out against us. I'll believe it when I see it, though. But I do think the Chicago Bears defense, we talked about this last year. I thought they were pretty good. But are they also last year starting to show some signs of age? I think that's also true. You guys know when we didn't trade for Montez Sweat a few seasons ago, I was not happy about it. I thought he would have made a big impact. And, that being true, though, I also think at the time he was 28 or 29, and now he's 30, 31. Is he looking a little bit slower? Well, week 1 would suggest yes. I think they have some other players that are also showing some signs of fatigue. The Lions offensive line, if they play better, the run block better, they're going to be able to play action pass better, especially against secondary. There's one guy for the Bears, bless his heart. I thought he was out there Monday night playing his butt off, but you know what? You could tell why he was a free agent, let go from the Minnesota Vikings, undrafted player. Can't locate the ball at all. If he gets one-on-one with Jameson Williams, St. Brown, Tesla, or whatever, I think if you don't throw it deep 55,000 times out of 2 times, then you know what? You're doing something wrong. I'm anticipating the Lions are upset. They are pissed off. They're at home. They're going to have a sold-out crowd. Everybody in those stands is going to be cheering at the top of their lungs for the Lions to get a victory. They go 1-1 this game, and I'll give you a cheat sheet for Friday. I got us winning on Friday. I think we're going to, I got us winning Sunday. I'll let you know what I'm going to talk about Friday, but I do have us winning. I think the Lions are going to win, and I don't think it's going to be like a 3-point game or a 5-point game. I think it's going to be a significant game for the Lions. I think you got to upset crowd. I think you got to upset coaching staff. I think you got to upset players. And you got guys coming in on the road. Again, you got 5 new people or 4 new people on the offensive line for the Chicago Bears. You didn't look great on the offensive line, in my opinion, at home on Monday night. Now you got 1 day less to get ready for Sunday. You got I guess you'd probably say a bad taste in your mouth from blowing that game on Monday. And now you get to come into Ford Field with a raucous fan base that's going to make life tough on Caleb Williams, the offensive line, throughout the game. I think the Lions are going to win. This is going to be a get-right game. What do you think, though? I've thrown a whole lot of stuff at you guys in about 14 minutes. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. We do have Anthony from Roar Lions UK coming on in about 4 or 5 minutes. So let me get to the Duke Crew comment section and try to power through as many of these as I can before the Ant-Man drops his huge opinion and wisdom on us. Michael, greetings, salutations, Coach Dan and Duke Crew, exclamation point, one pride, woo, and back at you. Susan, let's go Lions, exclamation point, can't wait for Sunday to be here. I'm with you there. Michael, to be Carrie. Morning, everyone, same to you. Ken, morning, Dan and Duke Crew, woo, there you go, Big Eddie. Hey, Duke Crew, I'm starting to believe we bounce back this week and get right. Being at home, another week to get things worked on. Bears ain't no joke, but I like us this week. Me too, I like the Bears. I like a lot of what they're doing. I just think because of situational stuff, we're at home, yada, yada. You guys all heard me. I think we're going to be all right. Just, we will perform as our offensive line and defensive lines perform, trying to take deep breath. The defense played well after the first quarter. I would agree with that. Not great, but well. Now, if we can get that O-line to play better, that alone would make us better. Yeah, if the offensive line plays even average last Sunday, I don't know if we would have won, but I think we would have made it more interesting. That's probably the right way to word it. Henry, good morning, Coach Dan and the Duke Crew. What a team. What a podcast. Exclamation point. What a time to be a Lions fan. Woo! And back at you, Henry. Alec, okay, Henry, we get it, man. Yes, we do get it here. Let's see, Trey, what's good, everybody? Time to get back on track, Sonny. I concur, Trey. Back off, Henry Moore, at you, Henry Moore. Woo! All right, we'll go with that. Let's see, Kerry, Bears are the bend over people of the division, period. I'll go with that. Alec, Goff's success lives and dies with protection from his offensive line. If the offensive line doesn't start protecting, it's going to be a disastrous season. Yes, correct with that. But again, watching it, I think a lot of it will write itself out over the course of the season as they get more reps together. I would agree with you there, Alec. Johnny, Alec, that's his trademark. So, intro, so back off him, man. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Henry, yeah, he's out here every morning, man. We come here for football talk, not trademarks. Hey, we're here for all things above. How about that, Johnny L? Yeah, we are who we are, so knock it off. Correct with that. Yes. Big Eddie, Alec Henry has been doing it here a long time, and he does that every morning. If it bugs you, then why hasn't it bothered you the last several years? Fair question to ask. Kerry, Dan will find the protection Goff needs. I agree. And the other part is, I know Christian Mahogany was a rookie last year. He got limited snaps, limited reps. It will take him time to develop. It will take time for Glasgow to kind of firm things up at the center. It will take time for, I can't even think of his name, Nate Ratledge to come in and into his own. Rough first game for all of them, but I think they're going to get better. I don't think that's who they are. Johnny, kudos, Big Eddie. Dale, greetings, salutations, Duke Crew. Ant-Man had us losing to Green Bay, but beating Baltimore. Hope he's right, the Brit with grit. Hey, could be wise words of wisdom there. Alec, it's just nice to get fresh people with their takes with Coach Dan. Yeah, 100%. Everybody's welcomed here. Be respectful of each other. Pierce need to get to the quarterback? Yes, we do. The other team's quarterback needs to go down. To be fair, in the second half, while we did get sacks, we did get some hits and pressures on Jordan Love. They made some corrections about I'd say 2 minutes ago in the first quarter. The problem is the first 13 minutes of the first quarter still existed. Steve, hey, it feels like we haven't seen you in a while, Steve. Good morning, coach and crew. Hope everybody's having a great day. The Lions will right the ship this Sunday against the Bears. The problem is, I see it will take time to gel. Agreed with that. You got a lot of new moving parts. Ragnow is, retirement, really hurt just because of the timing of things. I do think if he were retired before free agency, you would have seen Brian Holmes make a move there or maybe do something different in the draft. Being that what as it may, is what it is, and now we move forward. Dre Day, good morning, Coach. Serious question. Why do you put so much much push for starters in preseason? No offense to some of the players, but having starters play against people who never make the team is no help. Here's why I would do it, Dre. And I can only tell you from all the time I've done it. Think about offense. Think about defense. Well, think about the first quarter Sunday. Those miscommunications, just talking about defense right now. How much would you prevented that from happening and taken away 3 points, 7 points, 17 points maybe from the Green Bay Packers? A lot of what the Packers took advantage of came down to errors in the communication, in my opinion, in the back half of the defense, and they roasted us with it. But if guys get out there in the preseason, get some reps, that cleans that up. Now move over to the offense. Same thing. Offensive line, if they play together, do they have to gel in regular season games or do they get to gel to some degree in the preseason? And now that preseason, that first quarter, second quarter, etc., do they look better in run blocking, pass blocking, etc.? Because there's more familiarity. Let me put it this way, Dre. Let's just say you walk into a class first day, they slap down the tests and say, this is your final exam. Are you ready for it? I would say most of us are no. But if you go to class throughout the week or the month leading into that final exam and you get to do some homework, some pre-tests, are you better prepared for the final exam? My opinion, you're asking starters to go out there while you're keeping them healthy. You don't give them anything to really prep for or very little leading into that final exam. And that's why they bombed, in my opinion, week one. All right, Hookadoo, good morning, Duke Crew. Time to roll up in our sleeves and find that grit! Exclamation point. Oh, yeah, there you go. Stephanie, good morning, boys! Exclamation point. We have our morning norms. Alec and Henry shows up every day here. Leave him be. Let's go Lions! Exclamation point. I concur. Alec Dre Day, because you have 3 new offensive line starters playing together. That's why live bullets are the best way to prepare. Yeah, it is completely different, especially when it comes to another factor would be conditioning. There is a massive difference between playing football with pads on and then with no pads on. And, that's just my thoughts. All right, we've got time for our special guest of the day. Let's go over and get him. He's the Brit with Grit, the guy from the other side of the pond. Let's go over and bring on Anthony from Roar Lions UK. Anthony, how you doing this morning, my friend? Oops. Let's try that. How are you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm doing good, thanks, Dad. Hope you're well. Hope the Jew crew are well. Hope you're all having a lovely Wednesday so far. Although I guess you've only just got up, right? So I'm halfway through my day.
Hey, how about that? All right, so we all get it. The Green Bay Packers, they put one on us Sunday. What are your thoughts? What are some correctable things for this Detroit Lions team based on what you saw against the Pack?
I mean, there's an awful lot that needs to be fixed, but the first and foremost, the thing that needs to be fixed is this team's attitude, because I can accept losing in the NFL. It happens. Every team loses. I can accept losing by a big scoreline sometimes. Sometimes a team just has your number and, it's a bad day and they'll put down a lot of points on you. What I can't accept is when you get bent over somebody's knee and have your hide tanned the way we did. That is not Detroit Lions football. We are built on grit. We're built on determination. We're built on working hard. We got absolutely, as I say, we had our hides tanned. That's not the way we play football. We don't get outworked. We don't get outfought like that. And first and foremost, that is what needs to change. We need to get back to being the hardworking, gritty team that we've been in the past. That's the first thing that needs to change. And that's the thing that can be eminently correctable, is the mindset of which they play with, because I was not happy with the way we lost that game. Not happy that we didn't lose. I predicted we were going to lose, but the manner in which we did so really irked me, and that needs to change very quickly.
If there's one area that you could say, hey, here's a bright spot for the team, and maybe it's tough to come up with that, but if there's one area, what would you say it was from Sunday?
I mean, the fact that I guess on paper you kept the game close, technically that kind of felt more down to them not sticking the nail into us. But, I think overall it was just, I don't think there was a lot because it was just all over the place. Discipline all over the place. Offense looked bad. Defense couldn't get to the passer. And by the time, they started locking it up, it didn't really matter because she was so far behind. It was just, They looked like a team that hadn't played football in 8 months. And, there was no good fundamental football, really. No, I'm just going to be honest here. There wasn't a lot in that game that gave me any reason for optimism going forward. It's all going, it can only get better. It can only go up. But sure. I'm not going to sit here and try and make excuses like people have been all week. Like we're a play away from this game changing. We're a little bit away from this happening. No, we need to work on a lot this week, and we need to clean up a lot quickly and play a lot better standard of football. And we'll get there. Not be been down on team. Season is not over. It's one game. It's the regular season. Again, right. I do not care about the regular season at all. I'd rather these games happen in the regular season. It's about where you're at when the playoffs come. You got a lot of time to correct everything, but there's not a lot I'm happy about from that first game. I would be lying if I said otherwise.
Offensive line, we get it. If you don't have an offensive line, you can't run, you can't pass, you can't protect your quarterback. It's going to be hard to have any kind of production. Talk to me about what your eyes saw with this offensive line week 1 against the Green Bay Packers.
See, they came up against a very good defensive coordinator. I said we were going to lose this first week because of Hafley. I've watched him all the way back from his years in Boston College. The one thing he's always done incredibly well with his defense is his trenches. Boston College players come into the NFL, they look great from day one. They are really, and when it comes to this Packers defense, that defensive line destroyed us. Absolutely destroyed us, and it wasn't like they were bringing a ton of extra men either. He was creative. All the blitzes, all the stunts, he kept people guessing. Our line wasn't able to settle because of all the looks he was throwing at them. This was a very experienced defensive coordinator who, when he finds the X on your offense, he will go for that X. X hits the spot. He will just drive a dagger in there. And that's what he did. Especially he went after that interior. He knew it was vulnerable. And for me, we made a massive mistake in that game. Like, one of the things I'm concerned about is Morton's game calling. And this is not to do with the downfield stuff. This was running between the tackles. We ran 22 times in that game. You know how many times we ran outside the tackles? 4. We just kept going down the middle again and again and again and again and again for 2 yards, putting ourselves in situations where you're second and long, third and long, allowing you're playing into their hands. There was no creativity in the run game to try and open it up. And that's not on the offensive line. We say we've got a bad offensive, well, not a bad offensive line, but an inexperienced offensive line. What do? You try and put them in situations where they can be better. We run great outside the tackles. Get Mahogany outside pulling. Get Ratledge outside pulling. Get them into space. Get them outside this pocket. Instead of having them under a big barrel of pressure in the middle, get them into some space and allow them a bit of freedom. Allow them to settle. Do something different. You didn't do anything different. Your offensive line wasn't working. You just said, oh, well, let's try it again. That's the shit that Patricia used to do. And what we used to hate on him for when we had Adrian Peterson, etc. So, it's not the offensive line's fault that they just keep getting the same play over and over when it's not working. You adapt, you adjust. And that's another problem. Green Bay adapted and adjusted what they did during the game. We didn't. And that's been a problem for us for years. So, the offensive line is raw. It's green. You've got to help it. And we didn't help ourselves. We just made the run game incredibly difficult and put ourselves in nasty pass situations where your third downs are like 8-7 yards. Micah Parsons is not playing running downs because he's not needed. So he's fresh for the money downs. He can come in and kill you on the money downs. We just, Hafley held up his arms, told us to come in for a big hug, and we did that. We came in and he wrapped us. So there's a lot you need to work on. The play callers do need to, and again, it's not about the downfield stuff people have been critiquing about. It's about the fundamentals of your run game, mixing it up, showing different looks, making the opponent adjust. We just played right into what they wanted us to do. And, that needs to change because every team around the league is going to see this now and they're going to think, well, maybe we can do the same against them. So, again, season's not over, not panicking. Right. I'm just looking at one game in isolation. This was not a good game. And, I'll ask you a question. Did it ever feel like Detroit was going to win this game? Did you ever think we were going to win it? Honestly, in your heart of hearts?
About 4 minutes in or maybe it was our second drive. To your point, well, I've gone on record this offseason saying, we're going to miss our offensive line from last year. But one of the advantages you now have is you have a far more a mobile offensive line. I know you and I have talked about it. I think I've talked about it with the Duke crew. I really thought you're going to be able to open up some stuff. You might have less experience, but you'd be able to run some more pulls, traps out wide, screen plays, because these guys, the 2 guards, can get out and motor better than the 2 guards we had last year. The fact that we never did that caught me off guard, and that's when, to your point, you thought you were just trying to force the square circle into the round peg or whatever the analogy is. I thought you saw a whole lot of that up front. And because of that, it gave me some limited expectations as I watched the game at the Sarge, Tony Libretto's and other people's houses. But
exactly. I mean, just very quickly, outside the tackle, we were running at 5 yards after contact outside the tackles. Right. Between the tackles, we were running at 1.75 yards after contact. Do the math. When you're running behind Penny, that was the most yards after contact you would get in the entire game, and you did it 3 times. I mean, that's what we used to criticize Ben for, right? Finding a matchup, not taking advantage of it. We did the same again.
So week 2 going in against the Chicago Bears, what are some of your expectations that you'll see differently out of this offense and defense?
So, right, defensively, first off, you've got to find some pass rush. I don't care about all these people said you had 6 pressures on 22 dropbacks. How effective was that pressure? Did Jordan, again, your eyes don't lie to you. Did you look at that game and ever think that Jordan Love was under pressure? No, because he wasn't. No matter what stats you put in there, no matter how many freeze frames you use, and you've got to do better with a 4-man rush. Why? Because you're coming up against Caleb Williams this week. And what did Caleb do a lot against Minnesota? He scrambled. He adapted plays. You've got to be able to keep spies back in coverage for him in this game. So your front four has to do better. You have to be able to rush forward. It's what the Packers did. It allowed their linebackers to sit back, take away our passing threats, keep the secondary at a reasonable level, and completely shut down. The fact that we can't generate any pressure whatsoever means you're having to bring extra men up. You're getting exploited on a rushing quarterback. That's where it's dangerous. When you're bringing guys up on the blitz, he beats them. You've got a whole lot of field until you're secondary, and you're going to keep moving. So Kelvin has got to come up with some pressure. It's the problem I said at the start of the year. We don't have any true pass rushers outside of Hutch and Aleem. And by that, what I mean is a guy who can win a one-on-one and really, you can push a guy back into a pocket. Offensive linemen are designed to drop back into the pocket like that and give you something. What the Packers had with Devontae Wyatt and all these guys is men who were beating one-on-one off the spot and just collapsing the damn thing. We don't have guys who can do that. And that's a problem that's coming to bite us now, because Hutch is just going to get double-teamed all year. Until someone else, and we've got no one who can take advantage of it. So I don't know. He's got to find a way to generate actual real live pressure that means something. Because if you don't, Caleb Williams hurts you a lot in this one because of that excess pressure you bring. Offensively, I mean, you've got to get more creative. And this comes pertaining to your run game. Get your young guards out in space. Don't just throw these stupid screens out. Wait for a play to develop a bit. Let them get out to the perimeter. Execute better, because the execution was just really poor. I mean, that's one thing that needs to be better off. But, you've got to find ways to mitigate the problems on your line. Ben Johnson was great at it. I know he had like a top 5 offensive line, but anytime someone was hurt and there was a weakness in there, he'd adapt and play around it so that guy was not under a whole great deal of pressure. So you've got to open that run game up. Otherwise, teams are just going to sit on us like the Packers did. It's going to be an issue. And I think you do have to take some deep shots as well. It's all right saying there's nothing there, but you've at least got to present the threat that you're going to do it. Otherwise, people just get closer and closer and closer. And again, that's what we've struggled with in the years when teams have really boxed us in. So, I think the play calling's just got to get a lot better. It just felt like it was vanilla. It felt like a preseason game, the offensive play calling did. Just run it up the gut, throw a screen to Gibbs. It's the regular season. These games matter now. You're not hiding anything from anybody.
Right.
Bring out a little bit more in there. So, I don't know, I've spoken negatively about this, but I think in isolation, the first game, you can't say much positive about it. Things get better here, but your play calling's got to get a lot better, and you've got to diversify what you're doing. Otherwise, teams are seeing what they can do to us.
The one thing I would say for the Lions defense is I think it was the latter part of the third quarter. I think the Packers were on their second and third drive of the quarter. We had at that point gotten some pressure on them, some hits on them. And I thought one reason why I still have questions about the Packers long-term over the season is Jordan Love had a stretch where I think it was 2 or 3 straight passes should have been picked off. Ansel only dropped one. Brian Branch has got called back, and there's another one that was tipped that I thought, somebody paying any kind of attention should have picked that off. And so when I see stuff like that, well, I'm not saying anything to say the Lions played great, but they got enough pressure on him in the second half where he mentally seemed to shut down like we saw last year in Green Bay and some other games. That's where I think the Packers could struggle going forward, but we'll leave that for another show another time. All right, talk about the Tesla kid. It sounds like everybody and their mother thinks this kid should be on the field more. Yes, I understand he was sick last week, but when he finally did get out there, he made his presence felt. What do you think? Does he just need to be the number 3 wide receiver? Do the Lions need to keep him as number 4 and bring him in from time to time? What are your expectations going forward?
Just carry on letting him do what he's doing. Again, he's given an opportunity, he takes it. And it was a great catch. It was a tremendous catch. Ultimately, it didn't mean very much, but for him, it's going to boost his confidence. Just keep bedding him into this team. I mean, you don't make panic adjustments like now making wide receiver 1 and throw all the balls in his direction because, that would be silly. We've still got Amon-Ra. We've still got J-Mo, but just keep increasing his snap count, keep designing plays for him. Have your big playmakers out there. The more guys you've got out there, the harder it is to defend. So... he's doing exactly what we want him to. Whenever he gets a chance, he's taking opportunity for it. So just keep building that up and keep rewarding him, and hopefully he keeps doing what he's doing. So, it was great for the kid to see him do it. Obviously, I wish it had been in wish it had been a game-winning touchdown. That would have been tremendous, but you get what you're given. So yeah, I'm happy with him. Keep increasing his reps. It's what Dan does. The better you play, the more your reps increase. It's no different for Tesla. Just but he keeps doing good stuff. Keep giving him more.
All right, we got just a couple more days until we see the Lions return to the field. If you had to guess right now, what do you think this game ultimately comes down to? What do you give us a score prediction?
Well, I had us winning this quite easily. I think the one thing we've always done well, we've not lost back-to-back games in what it feels like approaching on 3 years now. And last year doesn't count, like between seasons doesn't count. In an actual season, back-to-back,
right,
you ain't lost regulars. You haven't done that in nearly 3 years. Their reaction is usually very good. They usually come out stung with a point to prove. And more so this time, they're going up against one of their old coordinators. And you're under pressure now. You're under bona fide pressure because you're going to Baltimore in week 3. You can't really afford to lose this game either. Because if you turn up to Baltimore like you did to Green Bay, they're going to drop 60 on you. And, that is just not acceptable. So I think we're going to come back. This team has shown me with its own eyes that every time it hits a speed bump, it comes back with a vengeance and someone's going to suffer for it. I think the Bears will. I mean, they're not as good as the Packers are. You saw there were exploitations there. Their offense is, it's middling, it's hit and miss. I mean, it put no points on Minnesota when for 3/4 of that game, Minnesota's offense was doing absolutely nothing. So it's inconsistent, it's troublesome. You can get home without really having much of a pass rush, which is our problem. And then offensively, I think, we'll be just fine. I don't rate, that Bears defense is already dinged up. It's missing some critical players. I think we'll be much better, for that experience now that we've got the rust off I've got the rust off. So I think we'll win. I did have us winning by like 18. I'm maybe not so sure now. Maybe by like a touchdown or something like that. It's probably going to be scrappy. It's probably going to be very gritty. It might come down to the last possession of the game. There's still going to be a little bit of rust in there, but I think we'll just about win and we'll start the season going. I'm confident they'll come back from this.
Okay. One last question for you. Lions pass rush. If it's not Aidan Hutchinson get after the quarterback, who do you think are one or two guys that really need to step up this week?
I mean, Davenport does. I'm sorry, but the fact that he's an injured croc who's not been good since I had hair and they've made him the edge 2 on this team. Like, he's earned it during training camp, whatever. Training camp is training camp. We got told how great our joint practices were, how great everything was, and then we turned up like that. We won. It means nothing. It means what you do on the field here. He's got to start pulling his weight round here and start delivering, because again, most of our interior defenders, Tylee, DJ Reed, they're not natural pass rushers.
Correct.
And we can't just expect them to be natural pass rushers just like that. So it's got to come from your edge position. He's the second in command. We've refused to go out and get anybody else because he's there. So you've got to start earning your keep. He was not acceptable the other day, and he needs to be acceptable very quickly. Outside of that, you're going to look at your depth guys to hopefully come in, make some plays. I'd like to see AQM a bit more. I thought he didn't get enough reps out there the other day because I believe he's a more effective pass rusher.
Who was that? Sorry?
Al-Qadim Mohammed.
Yeah,
I'd like to see him a little bit more in there as well, because we've got no problem stopping the run, but getting a team 3rd and 8 because they're not running the ball means nothing if you can't rush the passer, because he can just... We saw it with Jordan Love on that first drive. We kept stopping the run and it ultimately meant nothing. So, yeah, Davenport's the big one, but all those edge players, Hutch has got to be better as well. I know he's double teamed. I know he's under a lot of pressure, but he wants $50 million a year or whatever he wants to be a pass rusher. I'm sorry, if you want that sort of money, you have to be better against double teams. That is why you're paid the big bucks. So this goes for Hutch as well. He's coming up against Braxton Jones, who's one of the worst left tackles in the league, and against a 35-year-old left guard or whatever it is if Tooney's playing there. There's absolutely no reason you shouldn't be shredding them in this game. If you want $45-50 million a year, go out and show us why we should pay you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the elite pass rushers do get double teamed, triple teamed, chip blocked, whatever you want to throw out there. Hutch, I get he's also hasn't played in almost a year.
Yeah.
But he's got to step up. He's got to get more wins. Can't hear about double triple team because they all get it. You can't tell me the Lions didn't go in trying to double team, triple team Micah Parsons or Clay or somebody else out there. So get it done. All right, my friend. Why don't you go ahead and give yourself a shout out to everybody where to find you, your great content, support your channel, and as always, thanks for making a little time out of your busy week to come join us over on Lions Talk Live.
No, I appreciate you, Dan, as always. You can find me at Roar of the Lions UK. Sorry, I thought I went there. Yeah, you can find me at Roar of the Lions UK. We're a group of Detroit Lions fans from across the pond. We're live on Mondays with our game reviews, Thursdays or Fridays with our game previews. I talk college ball on Wednesdays, so if you want to drop by and say hi tonight when I'm talking college ball, then do so. And plus, we're live during the games as well. We just love talking football, so if you want to come and get your Lions news and views from a British perspective, then come check us out, Roar of the Lions UK. As I say, thank you, Dan, as always. Thank you to the Jew crew. I know I've been a little bit on the pessimistic side today, but at the end of the day, as I've already said, I don't care about the regular season. We're going to be just fine. It's what happens when we get to the playoffs that really matters this year. So keep the faith. We're going to get there. We're going to absolutely destroy the Bears. And this time next week, we can have a much more pleasant conversation about how bad Ben and the Bears are. So have a great day, y'all.
You do the same, my friend. We'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers. Bye.
We'll see you now. All right. Thank you, Anthony, for making time. All right, let's go over to the Duke Crew comments section. We'll wrap this show up. Brian, I think I heard Dan Campbell say plenty of times this is the best Lions team he's been around. I've got to ask whose fault it is if we don't ever win a Super Bowl, Brad's or Dan's fault. It could be a lot of different things. Just because this might be the Lions' best Lions team he's ever been around doesn't mean the other teams aren't good. And at the end of the day, just look at the Packers game. Yes, they were at home. Yes, a lot of things didn't go our way, but they're a dang good team. And you're going to have to beat some dang good teams this season with this schedule and then going forward when we make the playoffs, etc. Hey, sometimes the ball will bounce your way. Sometimes it doesn't. I know I talked about it in the postgame show. My opinion, 8 to 12 plays go differently. The Lions might have a chance there, but maybe next time we play them, the ball bounces our way versus their way. All right, Joseph, I blame Brandon Dan for your expectations. All right, I'll go with that. I can only speak to myself. I expect to win every game as a coach. Although when talking to the media, I always say we're 0-18 until we earn wins. Kurt Ant-Man, exclamation point, the Brit with grit, 1,000%. Good to see you, Kurt Steele. Great day. It's one game, though. Question mark. Baltimore has their coordinator in the booth. Give it a few games. Maybe it'll work. Yeah, and for everybody who says the coordinator needs to be on the field, you can find examples every time you watch college football, high school football, professional football. There are a whole lot of coordinators that do their play calling from up in the booth. I don't really think there's an advantage. What works best for you? If you win, hey, it worked well. Dominic, good morning from Texas. Good to see you, Dominic. How's your day going? Brian, Joseph, I'm pretty sure it's everyone's expectation is Super Bowl. Yeah, if your expectation as a player or a coach isn't to win your championship in your respective sport or league, I'd ask what you're doing. So, Big M, Brian, ultimately that falls on the head coach. He makes all the final decisions. Correct. But at the end of the day, I seem to remember, just using last year's example, we lost to Tampa Bay. Man, this show was blown up for 5 straight days. Everybody fired this person, fired that person, fired the water boy, fired the mascot, fired the guy out on the street. I don't know, hire somebody just to fire them. If we win this week, we win Baltimore, we win Cleveland, nobody's going to remember this. That's one thing I always say to teams that I coach. If you lose early in the season, and thankfully in my career, it's rarely ever happened, but when it does happen, I'd say, hey, when you're hosting that championship at the end of the year, who's going to care that we lost that game earlier in the year? Joseph, yep, Brad and Dan's fault. I'll go with that. Brian, Big M, I mostly agree with many of the mistakes going into 4 or 5 year head coach plus his assistant coaching time. Too many meatheads mistakes. We'll see what happens. Big M, if the Lions don't want to pay Hutch, some other team will. Nothing wrong. Yeah, you're 100% right there. Somebody's going to sign him. Is it going to be you or somebody else? Brian, I'm sorry, Hutch isn't worth $50 million. How much is he worth? And the problem is, if you don't sign him, are you willing to say goodbye to him? I guess, that's sort of like, I'm not saying you're right or wrong with whatever your opinion is. I'm just saying you have to be willing to make that choice and then live with it. Let's see, Dave, what do you got? Losing at Green Bay didn't make me freak out, but if they lose to the Bears at home, I'll freak out will at least be on the table. Yes, a freak out will be on the table, no doubt about it. Southwest, keep Hutchinson name out of your mouth, boy. He earned his money. Did you think that after that horrible injury and you clowns think he would rule the world? He is not all the way healthy. That's dumb for you to think. Yeah, all I can tell you is what I'd see and what I think. You guys can have your own thoughts. When I watched him play, you could see first snap on defense. Green Bay Packers went after him. They were not going to let him, establish any kind of rhythm. I don't remember. I don't have the notes in front of me, but I'd say for the most part throughout the game, if he wasn't double team blocked, he was single blocked with a chip. And, I agree. If you're going to be the elite guy, you've got to be able to beat that at least 50% of the time. And also, we all get it. Hutch hasn't played in a year. First game back. He hasn't played in the preseason. Part of my problem with not playing guys in the preseason, there is a massive conditioning difference between playing with pads on and playing without them on, especially when you're talking the other guys have that extra weight leaning on you. So, again, you can have your own thoughts. I'm just telling you, these are my thoughts. Brian, I get rid of Hutch, draft someone that can win one-on-ones. Are you sure you'll get that guy? So I sort of like going back to the get rid of Jared Goff thing. And, when I would ask people, okay, get rid of Goff, no problem with it. Who do you know is going to be better? Everybody say, well, just draft somebody. The draft's 50-50. I don't care who you are. The fact that Holmes hits on about 85% of the draft, Lions are crushing the draft, even though, okay, we missed on Broderick Martin. We missed on Hendon Hooker. Great. All right. So what? Look at the Sam Laporta draft. Look at the Brian Branch draft. Look at this year's draft. I think you're going to be fine. But if you want to go get rid of Hutch, if you want to go get rid of Goff, are you sure? Are you 1,000% sure you're mortgaging your house, your future, saying, I know this guy I'm going to draft is going to be better than them? If you're not, man, you're going to be on the streets. Joseph, YouTube chat guy knows how to draft better than Brent. We'll find out. Brent is laughing. Until the Hunt is laughing. Hey, good to see you, my friend. Kurt's still laughing. Southwest, we see at what he did at 100%. He had 7.5 sacks when everybody else in the NFL do compare that to nothing. Stop acting like week one, we should have 4 sacks. Yeah. And again, what does he draw to him? Right. Well, Southwest, think we heard Hutch was a beast tearing into the preseason. Now he's fully healthy. Okay. We'll wait and see. I wait and see at the end of the season how he does, Brian. We'll see then. We can judge him probably a little bit better. Southwest, I don't care what the heck other teams do. Our Lions do not use the stuff. Ain't broke. Try to fix it. Come on. He's doing different. Okay. Hookadoo, Joseph, Kurt Steele, Lions started 1-1 last season. Ooh, how many of us forgot about that? Mary Smith, yep, and they, eyeing everything, but forgot to put their glasses on. That's why they ain't no MCDC and coach. Oh, I'll go with that, 100%. Mary, good to see you this morning. Southwest, get on the sideline spirit. That's what our team is used to. Until then, I can always get a laugh out of some of the same old Lions fans each morning. Hey, it's good to have a good laugh to start your day. And more, Green Bay will remember that win. They should remember that win. I mean, sometimes we get upset when teams win. How dare they beat our team? They get paid too. They got tired of getting beat on us. I'm sure throughout all of last season, then the offseason, you couldn't beat the Detroit Lions, and they didn't even have a defense on the field. It's true. And we'll see. Hey, could add a little bit of fuel to when we play them next. Let's see, Thomas, let's not lose our minds here. Exclamation point. We will win versus Bears, lose versus Ravens, but we'll make the playoffs. Yeah, could be true. I'm hoping we just win out every game by 50. That would make it easier on all of us. Thomas, the team with grit last Sunday wasn't us. It happens. With some exclamation points. Brian, Don, it's called scouting for a guy to win one-on-ones. All right. Dan, stop. Exclamation point. The Lions are fine. Okay. Gary, everyone in the chat knows who Hutch is. Not going to answer to meatheads stirring the pot. All right. Hey, sometimes you want to stir some chili in your pot, especially with some delicious hot sauce sprinkled on the top. Thomas, look, Dallas won the trade. If Hutch wants $50 million, up to me, he's gone. Okay. Leonard, Coach, is it really that difficult to make game time adjustments? Jay Morton kept feeding Gibbs, and Monty was getting the tough yards. It was. I can't answer that. Every coach is different. Some people, make inner game adjustments very easily. Some people do not. Mary, agreed. Gary, Pat, you think you're going to be a game changer to make 50 million. You got to be a game changer to make 50 million. Sorry, I murdered that one, Pat, but I agree. Michael, this 2025 Lions team has new elements added to. Feels like Cotton fans' expectations of can't or won't accept that. Well, I concur. Henry Moore, Hutch is my guy. Exclamation point. He was just doing what the coach wanted. Could be that. I would not have dropped him into coverage 3 or 4 times, and same with Davenport. I still don't get that one, but hey, they don't ask me. Thomas, Lions were 1-1 last year too, exclamation point, but look at the schedule. And then say that again with confidence. Hey, I don't have a problem with it. I don't ever disrespect the team by saying, man, we were 1-1 last year, but this year's 1-1 would be different. Nah, man, every team's professional. Every team's good. You can lose to anybody on any given Sunday. Kurt, see you guys over the Boss Up Ball Up channel in a few minutes. We'll see you there, Hitman. Joseph, agreed. Michael, silent service. What a bunch of whiny girls. Sometimes you got to have whiny people. Kenneth, we need more pressure on defense, more explosive plays on offense. I couldn't agree more, my friend. Lauren, Kurt Steele on my way. We'll see you there. And more, I think we'll win at the Ravens. I like the way you're thinking, my friend, 100%. Gary, name an edge that has a sack every single game. I'm going to struggle to come up with that one. Holler is Laffern. All right, guys, we'll get you on over. Have a glorious day, my friends. Go Lions. We'll see you next time, Henry. If there is breaking news later today, I'll get over to you as soon as possible. If you would be so kind before checking out, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit all the buttons. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Do something kind for somebody you don't know, and we'll see you all on the next Lions Talk Live. Take care, everybody.
Excuse me, sir, would you... Donations to Reverend Moon? Jews for Jesus? Read about Jehovah's Witness? How about Buddhism? Help Jerry's kids? Oh, yeah. Scientology? Or nuclear power?